Good morning. Today on Spotlight, the Democrats get ready for their virtual national political convention. Their candidates and party supporters say they are ready to compete head-to-head with the Republican Party. Leading the charge here in the Great Lakes State is Lavora Barnes, chair of the Michigan Democratic Party. She'll join me today. And later on our Sunday morning program, meet Sheboygan, Wisconsin Mayor Michael Vandersteen. He's the chair of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. What are his water infrastructure goals for this Midwest region? We'll ask him. It's Sunday, August the 16th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. Madam Chair, you doing okay?
I am doing well. It's great to be here with you. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing just fine. All right, you have the Michigan primary behind you now.
Yes.
All eyes are focused on November and getting ready for what looks to be perhaps one of the most interesting, most historic races in American history. As you look at the Democrats, because that's what you're in charge of, how are you feeling coming out of the primary in terms of how well you think you're positioned to do battle in November?
Feel really good about it, Chuck. We fielded a strong team of Democratic candidates across the state in races from the top to the bottom of the ballot. I think that we're going to pick up some seats in November. Some folks may be surprised by the places we're able to pick up seats, but we've seen the coalition of strong Democrats grow across the state over the past 4 years, and we're really excited to sort of see it come to fruition this November. We've been working toward this since that 16 loss, and we're ready.
The loyal opposition here in the state put a press release out quickly after the Michigan primary, and they said, we have put ourselves in a very strong position for the fall, while House Democrats will now be swimming far upstream to try and take back the majority. Your reaction to that?
We always knew that taking back the majority in the State House was not a cakewalk. We came into this prepared for the hard work it was going to take back the State House. We fielded some terrific candidates in these State House districts, and we are on track to pick up the 4 seats we need to take the majority in the State House. You know, Governor Whitmer needs at least one chamber in Lansing that she can count on to support her as she tries to fulfill her goals as governor, and we're looking to give that to her with this election in November.
And you think that's very doable, especially if you get a strong voter turnout, which certainly we saw that in the primary. You believe that favors Democrats and favors your candidates?
I do. And also, Chuck, we run a fully coordinated campaign, which means where we are strong for the president, where we are strong for Gary Peters, where we are strong for congressional candidates and congressional members like Haley Stevens and Alyssa Slotkin, we're strong all the way down the ballot.
What do you see as the major issues that you think will bring people out to vote, whether they do it via absentee or they show up in person in November?
I think that Michiganders continue to be angry and frustrated with this national administration's response to the COVID crisis. I think they see a strong contrast between how Donald Trump has mishandled this and the way our governor has handled it well, following public health guidelines and taking the advice of science and not their imagination. And also, I think people are still concerned about this economy, and which has gotten worse and worse because of the lackluster response of the federal government to the COVID crisis. Yeah. And then the third thing, Chuck. Sorry, I was just going to say. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Former President Bill Clinton used to always say, "It's the economy, stupid." The economy. You think that's still the case?
I do. I do think the economy. I think that this president made promises to this state in 2016 that he has failed over and over again to meet. And people remember that. People know that. And they've watched this economy get worse because of the response or lack of response to the COVID crisis by this president. So absolutely, the economy is part of this discussion.
All right, we need to take a little break. We'll hurry right back with some more questions to Lavora Barnes. She is the chair of the Michigan Democratic Party. Stay with us.
Working families need someone on their side in this nation because they certainly don't have anyone in the president now on their side.
In just 83 days, we have a chance to choose a better future for our country.
Madam Chair, you put in a tweet recently, you said Paul Begala's new book that that's sort of a roadmap for what Democrats need to do to be able to take back the White House. Drill down on that a little bit. Why was that book so important in your mind?
Part of it, honestly, is because Paul's a friend. Paul and I worked together. I won't tell you how long ago, but Paul and I worked together. And Paul's written a book that is specifically about the roadmap to beating Trump. And Paul and I spend a lot of time talking about the way we ran things here in Michigan in 2018, the way Governor Whitmer ran her race as being sort of a roadmap for how to win in states like Michigan. And a lot of that is about talking about the issues that people care about. You know, you and I talked a little bit about the economy, about healthcare, about the issues that people care about, but also making sure that you're in touch with all parts of the electorate. You know, we talk about how the governor ran an 83 county race. We've got an 83 county strategy here in Michigan. It's so important that we not walk away from any parts of the voter electorate when we're having these conversations about how important it is to vote and how important it is to vote for Democrats.
Let's kind of break this state up a little bit. What do you think may happen in November coming from the west side of the state, which you know an awful lot about? Let's take that first before we work our way over to Southeast Michigan.
So I think we've got the opportunity to pick up a couple of congressional seats on the west side of the state that I think that nationally folks are very excited about, and we've been excited about here in Michigan for a long time. We fielded strong candidates from the primary and really have an opportunity there that I'm not sure we knew we were going to have coming into this, but we're excited to have. And then on the state house side, there are some seats over there that we're keeping a good eye on as well. Think about in Grand Traverse, we've got a terrific candidate named Dan O'Neill running for state house, who is a very strong candidate and is likely to win. Really good prospects on the west side of the state. And I think some folks will be excited to know that the Democratic coalition has sort of spread its wings across the state and is reaching across to the west side as well.
Yeah, and if you look over on our side of the state here, and you look at places like Oakland County, which certainly has been changing, used to be a strong Republican stronghold. That is not necessarily the case anymore. What do you predict?
That's exactly right. We've seen Oakland County really surge in terms of Democratic strength in the past couple of cycles. And if you look at that county, we've got the two top returners, the folks we need to return to Congress, and Alyssa Slotkin and Haley Stevens, who touch Oakland County, and then a good number of state house seats right there in Oakland County that we can flip to the Democratic. So Oakland becomes sort of a nexus for us, a place where we will all be working hand in hand, arm in arm, to push folks across the finish line toward the end. It's an exciting time to be, I think, in Oakland County and to be a Democrat in Oakland County.
Macomb County, always a little harder to predict. It's a county that votes with its pocketbook. It has voted for Democratic presidents. It has also voted for Republican presidents. Which way do you see it going this time, and what will determine how Macomb County gets out and vote?
I think that this is the year that Macomb County not only comes back to the Democratic fold, but does so pretty strongly. I think we're seeing a lot of interest in Macomb County and change. I think a lot of our Macomb County voters see that the economy has left them behind, has failed them. The promises that Trump made to them did not come to fruition. And it's time to allow Joe Biden to step in here and take some leadership and actually make a difference for the economy in Michigan and in Macomb County. And we've got some terrific candidates there, and a member of Congress in Andy Levin, who has made some promises about how Macomb County will turn out strong. I feel good about Macomb as well.
And what needs to be done in the city of Detroit and Wayne County to be able to get a voter turnout similar to the first time President Barack Obama won? Do you sense that type of enthusiasm and African Americans and people of color coming out to really vote, or is it not the same sort of feeling that's going to make them say, hey, this is historic and we got to do it?
Yeah, you know, Chuck, one of the things we did after 2016 was keep our Detroit office open and keep staff in Detroit. So we have been on the ground in Detroit for this entire period, making inroads, having conversations with voters, and making sure that folks know that the Democrats are there and the Democrats aren't going to leave that city. We are hearing a lot of strong enthusiasm for voting in November, for turning out Donald Trump, and for making a difference and having their voices heard. And I think as you have watched, as we have protested and we've raised our hands and raised our fists in anger about what's happening in the Black community, our folks understand that this vote is part of that protest. This vote in November is the next step, not the final step, obviously, but the next step in that protest, and we're going to all go out and exercise that right.
Is it your sense that African Americans could decide this election, depending on what their voter turnout is?
But we've always said that the Black voters, particularly the Black women, are the backbone of the Democratic Party. If Black folks don't show up, it does make a difference in terms of victory and defeat. We think that it's so important to make sure that all of our voters, particularly our voters who have not used absentee voting before, learn how, and are helped to make sure that they get those ballots in and get them in early, and that will help us with the turnout. It's so important that people vote safely from home, but vote in large numbers, and I think we'll have those large numbers in November.
Ms. Barnes, you made history when you became the chair of the Michigan Democratic Party. You're an African American, you're female. What role do you see women playing in this role, and how big of a factor might that be as we look at everything sort of sorting itself out here as we approach November?
Huge factor. Women are a huge factor, not just in Michigan, but nationally, as both candidates, as volunteers, as campaign staff. Women are making their mark all over the place in terms of this election, because it is such an important election for us. I know we say every cycle that this is the one, this is the most important election of our lifetimes, but this one truly is. This president needs to be turned out in order for us to save our country from the road that it's on right now, and Black women are at the heart of making sure that happens.
And we certainly have seen all sorts of protests across this nation. We certainly have this theme of Black Lives Matter. In your mind, will that be a key issue, or at least something that's fueling what people do in terms of voter turnout in November?
I think it absolutely is. One of the things that I've been talking to folks about, particularly our young folks, is that their vote is part of that protest. It's sort of, it's not the end all. It's not going to solve all of the problems that we as a Black community are facing here in this country. But if we don't vote, we certainly are not going to be on the path to fixing the problems that we have. So we have to vote. I think we all understand that now. More and more you're seeing people out there, Black Lives Matter and an I voted sticker. I have a Black Voters Matter t-shirt that I wear also. It's so important that we recognize the vote that we fought so hard for, and that our parents and our grandparents fought so hard to get for us, is an important part of this protest.
As your virtual convention gets ready to get underway, that's going to be really different.
Very different. I'm excited to see all that they've got in store for us. They're keeping a lot close to the vest. They have a lot of surprises for us in this virtual convention. I'm excited about it.
All right, very good. And for all those Republicans that are sitting out there and saying, hey, what about our time? Know that we'll be talking to the chair of the Michigan Republican Party right before their virtual convention begins in about a week. Thank you so much for joining us today on Spotlight. Good talking to you. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too. Be safe. Wear your mask.
Thank you. And coming up, the chair of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. We'll be right back. And from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, not Michigan, is Mayor Michael Vandersteen. We appreciate you joining us today, Mayor. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for the time.
Good. Everything's good in the great state of Wisconsin?
Oh, yes, we're doing all right.
All right. Very good. Trying to manage this along with COVID, along with everybody else. You also, in addition to being the mayor of Sheboygan, Wisconsin, you are chair of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. There are probably a lot of people out there right now saying, what in the world is that? In a nutshell, what is it?
Well, we're about 16 years old. We were started by Mayor Daley and Mayor Miller in Toronto and Chicago, respectively. And we're a group of a little over 90 mayors along the Great Lakes. We're a binational organization with mayors both in the U.S. and the provinces of Ontario and Quebec. And we try to give mayors a voice on many different issues across the Great Lakes. We've dealt with things like the phosphorus runoff and the algal blooms, the fight to keep Asian carp out of the Great Lakes, many other issues along those lines. And now we're working real hard on infrastructure that are needed by our mayors, and the fight against the erosion that's coming from the high water levels in the Great Lakes.
How much does this water connect us?
A lot of the commerce that goes through the Great Lakes, the shipping industry, benefits everybody along those borders of the Great Lakes. We also have a huge tourism industry that binds us all together. And it's interesting that before COVID came, the growth of cruise ships on the Great Lakes was really strong. So there's a lot of economic activity that happens along the borders that we have with this great body of water.
I was reading somewhere where I think you said that especially once we get past COVID-19, whenever that is, and hopefully sooner than later, that we're going to potentially see a real boost in terms of the economic power of this Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence River and the economy that goes with it.
Yes, I really feel that that's a great possibility. But again, we have to give our mayors and our cities the money and the tools to bounce back.
What is it that they need most?
The immediate need is to fight the erosion that's taking place along the Great Lakes. There's many communities that have water treatment plants or water intake plants that are being seriously challenged by the high water. And so you have to protect those pieces of infrastructure. And then we had the erosion that just naturally occurs along the shore where maybe we don't have revetments and our beaches are gone. You know, those need to be protected.
In terms of dollars and cents and maybe numbers of projects, how many projects are within this Great Lakes Initiative?
Well, we did an inventory of some of our cities, and we had probably about 45 different projects that they were able to identify that needed to be done, that were pretty much shovel ready, but they just need some funding to make those projects happen. And there's many other projects that are out there in the communities that we didn't survey. And so we estimate that in the next 10 years, we need about $20 billion to fund these projects across the Great Lakes, both in the US and Canada. On the Asian carp, I think we've all seen those videos of the fish jumping out of the water. And
yeah, pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, and so, you know, this could really have a negative effect on the Great Lakes. Right now, we have a great fishery, you know, where people can catch Chinook salmon and rainbow and brown trout, you know, great fish that they want to take home and put on the grill and eat. I'm not sure that that's going to be the same with the Asian carp, and if they get into our fishery, it could devastate it.
When we come back, I want to pick up a little bit more and talk about how this is potentially become a campaign issue in 2020, and maybe drill down a little bit more in terms of your leadership and what you want to do during your tenure as chair. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Mr. Mayor, we're sitting here in Detroit. You're up there in Wisconsin. But if somebody were to say, okay, well, we have the Detroit River here. Yeah, we have some Great Lakes near us, but we're not really part of the St. Lawrence River area. Why should we really care? What would your response be?
I guess in your area, you know, the Great Lakes are the access to bring commerce into the Detroit River. I'm not sure how much that's used, but there's an opportunity for that to have a great economic impact as well as a recreational impact.
Yeah. Do you view this as a potential 2020 campaign issue?
We're concerned about many parts of getting water to residences in all of our cities. And another big part of this that we're working on is bills to help lead line replacement, because we want that water to be clean and fresh and pure. And unfortunately, with the lead lines that we have in many communities, that's not happening. And so that's a big part of it. You're very familiar with the problem in Flint, Michigan, and that's become kind of a poster child for this movement across the nation.
How long is your tenure as chair, and what is it you want to accomplish during your time?
Well, my term is for 1 year, and we switch between the U.S. and then Quebec and Ontario. So there's a rotation of mayors each year.
All right.
in the coming year, you know, our goal is to address the infrastructure issue and the erosion issues. So we hope that we can make some headway with both governments in both the U.S. and Canada to bring some extra dollars to our mayors, whether it just be straight for infrastructure or as a way to bounce back, because as we spend money on these projects, that'll naturally give the local economy a lift. And we've got numbers that say that we'll create about 3.9 jobs per $1 million spent, more than you will with other projects of a similar type of construction.
Tell us a little bit about Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Well, Sheboygan is a city of about 49,000 people. We have a real strong manufacturing base. And the Bureau of Labor Statistics has ranked us the 4th highest and for the percentage of our population that's employed in manufacturing. You know, some of the big companies here are just outside our border is the Kohler Company in Kohler, Wisconsin, Sargento Cheese, Johnsonville, Wigwam Woolen Mills, Plenco. So there's some big manufacturers in this area, and they're by and large, they're family owned, and those families have stayed in the area through thick and thin and haven't moved out for other reasons.
Well, having spent a little time in Wisconsin, I certainly know that cheese is very important, and so are those Johnsonville bratwursts.
Yep, and you know, Sheboygan's a real tourism mecca. We call ourselves the Malibu of the Midwest because we have the best freshwater surfing on the Great Lakes right off of North Point Beach. And then on Southside Beach, we have all the windsurfers. So we have a lot of great water activities in the area, and we have a really robust charter fishing fleet that operates out of the Sheboygan Harbor as well.
I'm guessing that you're Wisconsin Badgers fan and maybe a Green Bay Packers fan and a Milwaukee Bucks fan?
Oh yeah, I was born and raised in Green Bay, so the Packers are really a really strong attraction for our family, as well as the Badgers and the Bucks.
All right, we'll just whisper that here in Michigan. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much, Chair of this conference and this initiative. We appreciate you joining us today on Spotlight. Good luck with this initiative, and we'd like to stay in touch with you on it.
Thank you very much for the time. Nice to meet you and talk with your group.
All right, it's a pleasure talking with you as well. Stay safe.
Bye-bye, you too.
So that's it for this week. Special thanks to Lavora Barnes of the MDP and Mayor Michael Vandersteen of Sheboygan, Wisconsin. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.